Hi, I'm Thomas Huddleston. I'm an international expert on citizenship and diversity, and I'm volunteering with Vote Brussels, a campaign with the Brussels region to reach out to international voters ahead of the local elections this October 13, 2024. And in this 20-minute video, I want to give you an introduction to Brussels democracy and how international voters can transform Brussels into the most cosmopolitan democracy in the world. So let's get into it. Do you know how many internationals there are here in the Brussels region? Nearly 300,000 potential voters. Yes, we could be 1/3 of all voters in the local elections on October 13th. And in some of the communes, like Etterbeek, Ixelles, or Saint-Gilles, where I live, internationals represent half of all potential voters. And who are we? Well, 2/3 of us come from around Europe. The largest numbers from France, Romania, Italy, Poland, Portugal, but also Germany, Greece, all around Europe. And we also come from all around the world, from Morocco, Syria, Turkey, or like myself, from the United States. And why is this important? Well, it's because when we think about elections, we often think in Belgium that a lot of the power is at the top with the federal government or with the three communities or with the three regions, and that there's not a lot of power with the 581 communes. But actually, it's the opposite. The federal government, the communities, and the regions are supporting the local communes, providing them with a lot of the policies and resources so that communes can invest in their local neighborhoods. But communes are also there to make sure that the local perspectives and needs are heard by the federal, community, and regional governments. And they actually have a lot of power on their own. So just to prove this example, I'm asking you, do you know these two people? They are Belgium's most powerful and most popular politicians on the Dutch-speaking and the French-speaking side. So do you know who they are? They're Bart de Wever and Paul Magnette. But what's their job? Do you know where they choose to hold political office? Bart de Wever is the mayor of Antwerp, Flanders' largest city, and Paul Magnette is the mayor of Charleroi, Wallonia's largest city. And you regularly hear about federal or regional politicians in Belgium coming back and being active at the local level because that's what they often find to be most important. And that's because we have more power at the local level in Belgium than really anywhere else in Europe. You can be voting to improve your street, your neighborhood, your security, your services at City Hall, your quality of life, because your commune is in charge of all of the City Hall services for foreigners, the population, and documents. They are investing in most of your local cultural, social, and sports facilities, as well as the daycare and school infrastructure in your commune. They are supporting the local economy and housing, for example, also providing social housing. They're in charge of most of the parking, traffic, and mobility rules. They oversee the police and the public security in your area. They coordinate most of the public works, parks, and public spaces. They organize the trash pickup in the public trash bins and the street cleaning. They're in charge of most of the urban planning and environmental permits. And they coordinate the welfare offices, the CPS, that offer services to vulnerable groups like the unemployed, the poor, the homeless, refugees, immigrants. And they coordinate and support so many local initiatives. So what's really most important to you as the issue that you'll be voting about? I can say personally, I'm voting because with everything that's happened over the past few years, I feel like I've really gotten to know my neighborhood so much better. I know what I love here, I know what it needs. And with everything going on in the world, in the country that I come from, and around the world, I've realized that Brussels is really the second home for me and for my family. And I want to improve life for all of the families in my commune so that everyone can have a place where they can find work and opportunity and a future. So what's the most important issue for you? And when we talk about power, we often think that the power is with the politicians, but the power is actually with us. So here's another politician. I just wonder, do you know who this is? This is Philip Close, who is the mayor of Brussels City, Brussels 1000. And do you know how many votes he got in the 2018 local elections? He was the top vote getter, 8,501 votes. Now, how many internationals were signed up to vote in Brussels City in the 2018 elections? Only 16% of internationals. Now, if they had all signed up to vote, do you know what share of the electorate they would have been? 35% of all voters, or 44,481 votes. So who has the power? You do. And this story is the same across any Brussels commune. For example, here's the same figures for Ixelles, where the mayor of Ixelles, also who was the top vote getter in the 2018 elections, received 2,233 votes, with only 17% of internationals signed up to vote. But if all of them had signed up to vote, they would have been 46% of the total electorate, or 31,012 votes. And this is really important for improving democracy in Brussels, because at the moment, the city councillors can get elected with just a few hundred votes, because the number of seats on the city council and the number of aldermen are based on the size of the overall population. But the number of votes that you need to get those seats are based on the size of the electorate. And so if internationals don't sign up to vote, it's so much easier for politicians to get elected with just a few hundred votes from their voters. But if everyone votes, then Brussels will actually become the most cosmopolitan democracy in the world, and politicians will have to be more responsive to ordinary citizens like you and me, and we will get one step closer to the commune that we want. So how do we use the power that we have? Well, we can either choose the party we want to support and vote for that whole party list, or you can vote for specific candidates on one specific list. And that helps to rearrange the list and will determine who in the end gets a seat. You can also vote specifically for EU citizen candidates who can run for the city council. So these local elections happen every 6 years. We as voters vote for the city council, and then those city councilors will vote for who will be the alderman, who will be the mayor, who will be the representatives on the CPS welfare office, who will be representatives of the commune for the police, for intercommunal associations, for so many important bodies. And we have so many more political choices here in Belgium at the local level than in most countries, because you can vote for any national or local list, and parties are represented across all of the Brussels communes, including as aldermen and as mayors. And EU citizens are also contributing to make Brussels a more responsive democracy. In the last local elections in 2018, over 300 EU citizens ran, and 25 were elected across half of the 19 communes. We also now have mayors in Brussels in 4 communes that represent the diversity of Brussels. So EU citizens and non-EU citizens are stepping up, whether if they're Belgian citizens or still international voters, and contributing to making Brussels a more cosmopolitan democracy. Now, these elections are going to be extremely close in the Brussels region, and that could mean that there could be major changes in your commune. So if you want to decide which party deserves your vote, you can use the electoral tests from the RTBF or from Le Soir that have been developed in partnership with Belgian universities. And you can find out which of all of these parties match you on the issues that you can care most about. Now, the challenge right now is we need to reach the international community because most internationals have not voted simply because people like you did not get the right information in time on how to sign up and also why your voice matters. Signing up to vote in Belgium is really one of the easiest things that you'll ever do living in Belgium. All registered EU adults can vote as long as they are age 18 by election day on October 13th. And they need to be registered as a resident in their commune or have the special ID card if they're working for one of the international organizations. Non-EU citizens can also sign up to vote if they have had a permit living in Belgium for 5 or more years. So since the 31st of July, 2019. But the key thing is that you need to sign up as a voter by the 31st of July, 2024, 3 months before the election. So EU and non-EU citizens just need to do this simple step of signing up. Now, you may have some more specific questions. There is a great frequently asked questions page provided by the Brussels region and the Brussels Commissioner for Europe in French, Dutch, and English. But here's how I'd quickly answer your questions. Well, how do I sign up? It's really easy online with the electronic card reader or It's Me on the government's online registration page. But you can also sign and mail or drop off the EU or non-EU form at your commune. Well, what if I only register as a resident or sign up as a voter after the 31st of July? That means you're not going to be voting in this October's local elections, but you will be signed up for future local elections. I've signed up for the EU elections. Is this the same thing? No, because you can choose where you want to vote in the EU elections and whether or not you want to vote in the local elections. So these are separate lists. If I've already voted in the local elections in Belgium, do I need to re-register? No. Even if you've moved communes, you're still an international voter in Belgium. But you can check this by going on the government's online registration website to check your status. Am I obliged to vote forever in Belgium? Again, no. If you move abroad, you're automatically deregistered as a voter. And you, as an international voter, can choose to deregister as a voter at any time by simply informing your commune anytime before the 3 months before a local election. Will signing up as a voter here affect my job, status, taxes, or my voting rights here in Belgium or abroad? No, 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 no. Your voting in Belgium is secret and this information is not shared with anybody. I've heard voting is obligatory. Does that mean I'm going to be sanctioned or fined? There is really no worries because obligatory voting is quite flexible in practice. It's very important symbolically because it's how Belgium guarantees that all voters are treated equally and are represented. But you or your proxy simply have to go down to the polls and vote for a party, or you can vote blank or even spoil your ballot. And here's the key, is that you can also vote by proxy. So if you don't know if you're going to be here on election day on the 13th of October, or if you're going to be working, or maybe you're sick, or you have some religious duties, well, that's no problem because you can vote by proxy with the proxy form. So really, you have no risks, no problems, or no sanctions to worry about here in Belgium or abroad. It's important for all of us to take on our responsibilities as the international community, because this is also our history. Belgium was one of the first countries in Europe that created a liberal constitution, thanks to Belgians and non-Belgians coming together in the Belgian Revolution and adopting one of the most liberal constitutions in Europe, but where only 1% of the voters could actually vote. Then Belgium became one of the first countries in the world to institute obligatory voting and proportional representation so that no voter was intimidated from going to the polls and everyone had representation. But of course, that was only limited to men, and Working class men had to fight through World War I in order to get equal voting and equal representation, but that helped to create the Belgian welfare state and economic equality in this country. And Belgium has had to fight for years to make progress, to make sure that women have the right to vote, young people have the right to vote, naturalized citizens have the right to vote, that colonized people can also have their own independent voting rights. And Belgium was one of the last countries in Europe to grant EU citizens the right to vote, which was eventually extended to non-EU citizens. So how are you going to be making history this October by contributing to Brussels democracy? The international community has contributed so much to the Brussels economy, to its cosmopolitan culture, to creating the capital of Europe. And they've also been contributing to Brussels politics as politicians and as ordinary citizens. For example, did you know that in the 1960s, Brussels Grand Place was actually a parking lot? It was thanks to the mobilization of the international community through the Bulletin, one of Brussels' English-speaking magazines, that the international community came together and organized a sit-in in the Grand Place, asking for this UNESCO World Heritage Site to be given back to the people, which is what happened. And now Brussels residents can enjoy the most beautiful square in Europe. And this mobilization of the international community inspired activists in 2012 to organize a sit-in picnic on the Boulevard Anspach. And thanks to their action, we now have the pedestrian zone that all of us now know and use every day. So when you think about the change that you want to see in your commune, how are you going to be making history? Well, the first step is make sure that you sign up as soon as possible before the 31st of July. Again, you can sign up easily online with the electronic card reader or It's Me by going to inscription.elections.fgov.be or mail or drop off the EU or non-EU form at your commune. So can I count on you to join the international community and sign up to vote? Are you going to be signing up online or by mailing or drop off? Just make sure you do this as soon as possible. And thank you for becoming a voter. And for those of you who are already registered and are planning to vote, you are leading the way, but your voice is not going to count if your friends, your family, your neighbors, and your colleagues also aren't signed up to vote. Because together we are 1/3 of Brussels, and we can create the most cosmopolitan democracy in the world. So share this video, share the Vote Brussels campaign, join us, volunteer with us, and together, let's make the world's most cosmopolitan democracy.